Today's White House press briefing had an altercation between Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, and Peter Doocy of Fox News. He put the question about the Democrats calling Trump a threat to democracy if this is not escalating things, considering that Trump's life has been threatened. Um, this is a narrative that is also being pushed by the likes of Sky News Australia, Forbes Breaking News, New York Post, and other pro-Trump outlets. When I say pro-Trump outlets, I mean Sky News Australia is a joke. They're basically a mouthpiece for Donald Trump. They don't even attempt to show any nuance with that. They're kind of the antipodean Trump media outlet. I really think it's astonishing just how pro-Trump they are. But let's break down the premise of this argument. The argument is that because the Democrats use strong words in describing Trump, i.e. he's a threat to democracy, that somehow incites violence against him. Now, Donald Trump is absolutely one of the most controversial figures in American political history, no question about it. So even if we assume that this narrative is true, that the Democrats are stoking animosity towards him, and I think it's a flawed argument, I'll come to that in a minute, but even if that were true, there's already significant animosity towards Trump because of all the things he's done. So this claim that calling Trump a threat is somehow misplaced or inappropriate or inciting violence against him. Firstly, on the occasions that Trump has been targeted, and it has to be said he has been targeted a few times now, 2016, and then twice this year, and that's not including the smaller level plots. Particularly graphic was, of course, the incident in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were very, very clear in the condemnation of that, as were pretty much every senior Democrat, every senior Republican, including Trump's critics. So that's the record. I haven't seen a single example of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris inciting violence against Trump, not once. They have criticised him, sometimes strongly so, but criticism is not the same as inciting violence. Donald Trump, on the other hand, let's look at his record. He is a sore loser. He fails to concede defeat. He still will not accept that he lost in 2020. He literally tried to interfere with democracy on election night with his interactions with the Georgia state official, literally trying to get votes overturned in that state. I think it needs to be watched very carefully this time what he will try. Indeed, this time, officials in swing states are talking about mental health problems brought about by the vitriol from Trump supporters. Trump has vowed revenge on the Democrats, essentially. He says he's going to go after them. He's going to find them guilty of felonies. He basically wants revenge. It's blindingly obvious to anyone who sees his speeches. So he refuses to concede defeat. He stokes up conspiracy theories about it being a rigged and stolen election, baseless. All of those things were settled in court. They were brought to court. It was all settled. Settled insofar as the courts ruled that there was no basis for it. Trump still keeps pushing it. Only the other day, he was stoking up his crowd in, I forget what state it was in, but he was stoking up sentiment against the journalist David Muir, the moderator of the presidential debate. I went to David Muir's Facebook page and it was bombarded with abuse from Trump supporters. I didn't see explicit threats, but there was abuse, vitriol abuse. I absolutely think it's valid to say that Trump is a threat to democracy because his track record is not conceding defeat, not accepting democratic results. As such, Donald Trump disregards the views of American voters. Every defeated candidate in modern American history has conceded defeat, even when it's been controversial, such as 2000. Al Gore, for the sake of the nation, eventually did concede defeat. I say eventually, a few weeks afterwards, I think it was December 2000. But the point is he did concede defeat because he realised, unfair as it was with the electoral college system, and the controversy in Florida, it was for the good of the nation. Al Gore did not incite people to rise up against the Capitol. That's the contrast. Hillary Clinton didn't incite people to rise up against the Capitol when she won the popular vote and Donald Trump won the Electoral College. So I find it pathetic, the hypocrisy of the Trump campaign and Trump's supporters, to accuse the Democrats of inciting violence against Trump when they have actually done nothing of the sort. They've criticised him. That includes saying he's a threat to democracy, but that is not the same as saying to some gunman, go out and, try to take his life. It's not the same thing at all. I think it is valid to point out Donald Trump's threat, and I'm sick and tired of Trump propagandists and their double standards. When Nancy Pelosi's husband was violently attacked, Republicans did condemn it, but not all of them. And I don't recall Donald Trump condemning it. I don't recall Trump supporters condemning it. In fact, I remember tasteless jokes about the incident. So their hypocrisy stinks, and it's glaringly obvious. Um, Donald Trump has absolutely been inciting violence and animosity for years. And they say, well, look, his supporters didn't riot after the assassination attempt. No, but they did riot after he lost the election. They did barge their way into the US Capitol. It was not peaceful protest, as some Trump supporters have pathetically claimed. These were violent insurrectionists, violent rioters. We can call them a lot of things, but the point is, and another thing, the point is they were a threat. But I was going to say another thing is that Trump has vowed to pardon them, pardon these criminals, pardon these violent extremists who were putting the lives of senators at risk, literally, going through the US Capitol shouting, "Hang Mike Pence," his own vice president. So absolutely there is an extremism in the Trump movement, without question. And then we have J.D. Vance in the wake of the Georgia school shooting recently saying school shootings are a fact of life. So the hypocrisy of Trump's Republicans is it's actually sickening, because this is like a burglar denouncing crime. It's just pathetic. It's true that Trump has been a victim of violence. It's true that he's been targeted by extreme individuals. But when that has happened, the Democrats have unreservedly condemned it. No senior Democrat has supported that in any way. And this latest gunman, Ralph, he's, I imagine, going to get a very long sentence. So I just think it's hypocrisy for Trump and his supporters to accuse the Democrats of inciting violence against him. I think it is completely and utterly valid to point out that he's a threat. I mean, are they suggesting that he shouldn't be criticised at all? Um, it is true that in terms of the campaign, the Harris campaign shouldn't just focus on that. They should focus on issues like the economy and immigration rather than just pointing out that Trump's a threat. But I really think it's valid because his track record proves it. The guy is a sore loser. He incites violent insurrectionists. He has the support of an extreme conspiracy theorist who calls 9/11 an inside job and who's a rabid racist, talking about Laura Loomer. I mean, this is the people who back Trump. So for the Trump campaign to accuse the Democrats of extremism is just, it's staggering hypocrisy. So I say to Sky News Australia, Forbes Breaking News, etc., F you, because it's, spare me the hypocrisy. Donald Trump is absolutely the architect of a lot of the animosity and tensions in the United States. I'm not saying he's the only one, and I'm not saying that there aren't far left people in the US who also stoke up tensions. I have said repeatedly that during the George Floyd riots, the left, were disgraceful in the way they stoked up the flames there. So I don't say it's just Donald Trump, but I do say he's a big part of it. Take, for example, this whole thing in Springfield again. He had an opportunity there to talk about the valid issues of immigration. What did he do? He just went down the rabbit hole and talked about Haitians eating pets. It's easy to laugh at it, but that has real world consequences. That could stoke up violence against Haitian immigrants. Why not just talk about the issue of immigration more broadly and say we need to get this under control, something like that? Instead, he goes down the rabbit hole, picks up a conspiracy theory. I am just so sick of the hypocrisy of Trump and his supporters. It is awful that, he's targeted in these assassination attempts, and it would be really bad if it was successful. That would not be a good thing for democracy. But for Donald Trump to play the victim in the sense of, um, accusing the Democrats of stoking us up, there's no evidence for that. In fact, the first guy that shot him had been a registered Republican, the one in Butler, Pennsylvania. So, who knows why these people are doing it? They obviously hate Trump, but, Democrats have also been targeted. Look at Gretchen Whitmer. She was targeted by Trump insurrectionists who want to kidnap her. Nancy Pelosi's husband. The Democrats have also been targeted. So why the double standards? The difference, of course, is Democrats have condemned all political violence. They've said there's no place for this. They explicitly condemned the attacks on Trump. Trump failed to do the same thing when violence was directed against Democrats. So the hypocrisy is pathetic.